out to the rural areas, and we introduce them to the teachers and give them the chance to talk to the teachers about what they've learned through the teacher training that we're running. And they're always very struck at how relaxed and confident the teachers are using English, and pleased and motivated. And we usually bring in some of the students as well to meet the business community and talk to them about the experience that they have as learners, being part of classrooms where they have more opportunity to speak and where they enjoy learning English.
So I guess there was a couple of important aspects that you referred to, that you said English is taught as a way of communication, and also you make it a more enjoyable experience for the teachers and the students, even in rural communities, and as a result they do well and they feel home at using English as a language. Now if you look at the presidential initiative that is speaking English our way, the idea put forward, or the concept put forward, was English has so far been used sort of as a tool for upper class to define a class, maybe as a sword or a crown, but in terms of how the concept was put forward, they wanted English to be like a pair of slippers or shoes, that everybody can actually wear shoes and slippers, so for it to be more of a household commodity. So what are your perceptions and opinions about this presidential initiative with speaking English our way?
Well, we've actually had quite a lot of interactions with Sunimel Fernando and his colleagues in the presidential initiative. I was with him last week and had a long discussion with him, and I was very interested to hear about how the ideas of the presidential initiative have evolved. And indeed, as you say, the idea is that English should be taught in such a way as to make Sri Lankans feel that it's their language, it's not our language. And I certainly very much applaud that approach. I think it's very important. If young Sri Lankans are really going to adopt English as maybe a third language, then they need to feel that it belongs to them. And I think that in today's world it's very important to understand that English doesn't belong to the British. Many people say to me, but the UK, England was the cradle of the English language. Well, that's true, but in a way it's a bit of an outdated concept, because English belongs to everybody. And I think it's significant that in today's world there are far more speakers of English who are non-native speakers than are native speakers. So English belongs to the non-native speaker now.
But having said that, there is another school of thought who actually, when they look at this initiative speaking English our way, they think that English is a foreign language. It's a language that connects countries to the global arena, and it has to be taught the way it is and not trying to localize it, because when you go to the international arena and the global market, basically it will be like the person who is speaking sort of a dialect or a regional version of English would be excluded or will not get that competitive advantage. Someone else who knows the standard English, so to say, will enjoy in the process. So there is a reluctance from some or school of thought that this initiative is not the way to go about. So I guess we are trying to reconcile two competing interests of trying to actually make it more sort of a household commodity, and also trying to retain and be able to compete with the global market. So how do you suggest that we could sort of make a compromise and reconcile these two competing interests?
Well, there are competing interests there, but I think for me the job of the English teacher is to raise awareness in the minds of their students of the existence of these different varieties, and to make sure that Sri Lankan speakers of English understand that there is a variety of English which is called Sri Lankan English, and which is perfectly legitimate. It's not some kind of inferior form of standard English or British English. It's a variety of English in its own right. and many Sri Lankan scholars have worked on this, and one of our own teachers, Michael Mailer, has been working on a dictionary through which he is working on sort of codifying this Sri Lankan variety of English and helping teachers and learners to understand what Sri Lankan English is, how the pronunciation differs, how the syntax differs, how verbs are used, how the style and the register are a bit different from standard English, if you like. And you're not telling students that one is right and one is wrong. You're making it clear to students that these varieties exist, and that in a Sri Lankan context it's fine for me to say to you, come, come, or I'll go and come, because that's Sri Lankan English. But if I say that in a business meeting in London, then people might be a bit confused. And so it's teaching in a way that raises awareness of these different varieties in a totally non-judgmental way. But I think that the presidential initiative is right in impressing upon teachers and learners the fact that English needs to be perceived as something non-threatening, as something which Sri Lankans can own, not instead of Sinhala or instead of Tamil, but together with, so that Sri Lanka is seen as a country which has mastered 3 languages, one of which is English.
Okay, Gill, that's an interesting note where we need to really clarify some issues, but we'll do that after a small break.